For Alex Bastecki, the judge from Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, he has been the unknown of the tournament. Started out with an 0-3 record in Legacy and then swept the modern rounds with Naya Company, something no one had on his radar to make it into day 2. And now, 4-color Rally up a game, he may just have what it takes.
And another unexpected metagame call here, although Rally does have a little bit of a resume. For Danny Jessup, no surprise to see him playing Obs on aggro. He's played some variation of this strategy now for well over a year.
Well, in the post-board game here, it looks like Danny Jessup close to equaling out the game score. We see a Wingmate Rock and a 3-4 on Danny's side, as well as Warden of the First Tree. For Alex, he's not dead. He has Liliana plus a token, but he's going to need some help here. He'll add Zulaport Cutthroat to the mix. Now, this is a spot that, depending on how good his graveyard is, Rally may be able to win from this spot.
Though the build of Rally, a lot less pure combo-oriented than the pre-rotation Mogis' Marauder build of the deck. That said, there's still spots where Nantuko Husk plus Zulaport Cutthroat can generate some kills.
Yeah, and we do see a well-stocked graveyard on Bastecki's side. Husk, Sidisi's Faithful, Jace, Elvish Visionary, Catacomb Sifter, they're all available. Looks like it'll be Fleshbag Marauder from Bastecki. It is the birds, however, that will give him trouble, though. Both 3/4s in the air. So, Fleshbag Marauder. We'll sacrifice that. The paper on the board here, this is how Alex actually tracks Zulaport Cutthroat triggers that are on the stack. I suppose for those of you who played a lot of Magic Online, that's exactly how it'd represent there.
Yeah, and the stacks with this deck can get awfully complicated, especially when Rally is involved, so it can be helpful to bring some of these devices to make it more clear to yourself and your opponent what's going on.
This is something, that's something I would expect from a judge to be bringing to the event, you know, very clear, very deliberate. So Liliana will flip into a Planeswalker. Alex will gain a life off the Cutthroat trigger. And now Liliana will bring back Sidisi's Faithful. It will exploit, sacrificing itself, bouncing the Wingmate Rock token. That's another life gain for Alex at 6. And now he can survive through next turn.
Yes. And if Danny has to spend some time attacking the Liliana as opposed to Bastecki, that's even more breathing space.
Well, there is some good news, though, for Danny Jessup. Alex plays the last card in his hand, and it's a copy of Evolving Wilds. So no Ancestors to be rallied just yet for Alex Bastecki. It does seem like if he hits a copy of Rally, this game could break open.
Even Collected Company for value here is
Sure.
likely, you know. Danny is slightly ahead right now because there's no answer to the Wingmate Rock and no real sacrifice outlets if he takes care of the Liliana, but that's a lot of turns with Bastecki having some huge draws.
Danny playing off the top of his deck. So just one card in hand. It's freshly drawn. Here comes Wingmate Rock. It will attack at Liliana. Danny gains 1 up to 17. The Planeswalker will go down. We'll see what that draw is. Danny feels like he's at least one more big card away. You know, would love to raid a another Wingmate Rock here.
Even Siege Rhino, you know, something to speed up the clock by a turn. An issue right now for Jessup is he's only attacking for 3. Bastecki's at 6, and he can sacrifice the Eldrazi Scion at a moment's notice to get a Zulaport Cutthroat trigger. That's looking at a 3-turn clock with, again, Bastecki just having some monster draws. A spot removal spell for Wingmate Rock is huge, and Collected Company and Rally can blow the game wide open.
So he needs 3 to dodge for 3 turns. Yeah, we're looking at, you know, somewhere around 15 draws that he has to dodge. So Alex will draw the first one. He's looking for a Collected Company, a Rally, a kill spell. Even an Nantuko Husk could possibly do it. And it's going to be the kill spell on the first try. Here's Fleshbag Marauder. Now, Danny can sacrifice the land. He has a Shambling Vent in play if he wants to protect his Wingmate Rock.
But this is still a trigger and a swing for 4 this turn. Not that the race is all that favorable for Bastecki right now, but even sacrificing the Shambling Vent is not bad for Bastecki. And again, he goes up to 7 on this trigger, meaning that the Wingmate Rock is now 3 turns away. And it means that Rally is even more likely to be a game-ending play should it show up.
So Danny will activate the Shambling Vent. Looks like he would rather lose the land than lose the bird. Shambling Vent is chosen to sacrifice. We'll see what Alex chooses. Looking at that Scion token.
So it's interesting. The Scion is the smallest thing in play and maybe the easiest thing to sacrifice, but it is also the only thing that he can sacrifice for sure at a moment's notice to get a cutthroat trigger.
Sure.
But I think from going to 6 to 7, facing 3 points of damage a turn, he'd rather just have the better attacker in play rather than the luxury of being able to activate the cutthroat should that come up.
Well, that cutthroat trigger puts Danny down to 16, and the attack puts him to 13, so the life totals inch ever closer. The draw for Danny, however, a copy of Gideon. That could equalize things here as well.
I like the idea of playing Gideon and making an emblem. Then you're on 2 turns. And
oh, wow. That's aggressive, but it could work here.
there's no sack outlet in play. I don't know what making a 2/2 token is getting you on this board. Jessup can't even really attack because he's just going to be triggering Zulaport Cutthroat if he makes attacks.
So could Danny could make an ally this turn, an emblem next turn, perhaps.
That is an option.
Well, we'll see. Danny's going to sack with Wingmate Rock, so at least no emblem this turn. Danny will go to 14, Alex to 4.
The issue here is you might want to be +1 point on lethal to play around 1 Cutthroat trigger.
Sure, that definitely makes sense. Well, Gideon will be the follow-up. For Danny, it's going to be an ally. And he'll pass. That last card in hand is just a land. Needs to dodge another draw from Alex. Last turn was a big draw, but one that Danny could maybe overcome. Catacomb Sifter looks like it was the card.
And this is the consequence of making the token there with Gideon, is now Alex has 1 sacrifice outlet, and making an emblem next turn is short of lethal.
So had Danny last turn just made emblem attack, this game would be his.
This is the risk of the play. I'm not saying that it's necessarily correct. I'm saying this is the risk scenario where Bastecki draws something that allows him to sacrifice once, gets up to 5, and now you're giving him 1 more draw step where you're still probably dead to Rally and maybe dead to Collected Company.
Yeah, so Alex will get another turn as it stands here. Of course, on the other side of things, if Alex, say, drew a Fleshbag Marauder this turn, this play is much better now.
Murderous Cut as well, yes.
So here's the swing with a zombie and a 3/1. It's enough damage to take care of the Gideon. Have to wonder whether Alex is going to go with the Planeswalker or the player. You see him pointing over there at Danny. That is where the attack will go, so 5 damage into Danny. He's going to ignore the Planeswalker. And if you're Danny, there's a read here. If Alex isn't attacking Gideon, that means he has a follow-up way to gain life or to kill the Wingmate Rock.
Or this is just a straight bluff. It's possible, like let's imagine Bastecki drew a land. He has to make this attack, hope that Jessup blocks, so that he gets a Zulaport Cutthroat trigger and is not dead to the emblem plus Wingmate Rock the following turn. I think Danny is forced to no blocks here because he's giving, if he blocks, he's giving Bastecki another turn if Bastecki missed on his draw.
Well, I inclined to agree. Danny will take the 5. He goes down to 9. And now we're back over to Jessup. Can he draw something that wins this turn? It's a copy of Silk Wrap. Well, he can play that pre-combat. That'll force Alex to sacrifice the Scion. Presuming he wants to go to Zulaport Cutthroat. And I would think that's the target here.
Yeah, especially if he doesn't have another Cutthroat in the graveyard. That might mean that a Rally doesn't necessarily end the game next turn.
All right, well, here's Silk Wrap from Danny Jessup. It was the card drawn for the turn. Imagine he's going to go for the 1/1, but all the creatures are valid. And we will see what Danny wants to do. Jessup down a game here with Obzon aggro. He needs this game for his tournament life. And it's so close. He has Alex at 3 Wingmate Rock in play. Alex empty-handed. He's going to target the Cutthroat. If Alex doesn't sacrifice the Scion here, Danny has him dead on board. He's keeping the Silk Wrap trigger on the stack here. Alex has to. I think it's just straightforward. I think he needs to sacrifice the Scion.
Yeah, I think he has to go to 5 here to be able to survive an emblem from Gideon plus the Wingmate Rock attack.
And he doesn't do it. It's exiled. He's empty-handed here. A slight oversight on Alex's side, and Danny's just all in on it. Immediately makes the emblem off Gideon. And that's 4 in the air. A miss from Alex, and that's going to cost him big. It'll cost him the game. We are on to game 3. A timely mistake from Alex Bastecki, and Danny Jessup evens things at 1 game apiece.
Yeah, that's one more turn potentially. No guarantee that Bastecki wins that game, but he's got one more draw step, and like we said before, he's got some
monster draws,
major draws in his deck.
You know, one Rally of the Ancestor, and maybe that one turns around. So we are back to game 3 here. Bastecki versus Jessup. Jessup getting the better of that game, too. Okay, we're going to look at the sideboards for a second here. Alex Bastecki, we know the Fleshbag Marauders are in. You have to expect the Murderous Cuts are in as well because of Anafenza.
And Wingmate Rock. More removal, slow the game down, kill stuff, and eventually overwhelm with Grim Horror Specs, Collected Company, and Rally the Ancestors.
All right, we're looking at anything like an Obzon Ascendancy here?
I don't think so. I would just want as much creature removal as possible, but keep the combo of the deck intact.
All right, on Danny's side, Wingmate, Rock, Look, and Silk Wrap. You see those at the top of the sideboard. They looked excellent in game 1. Do we like those, and do we like anything else?
I like the Silk Wrap. Any removal spell that exiles I can get down with. I like the extra copy of Wingmate Rock as well. It's the best part of the top end. Everything else, you know, the individual spot removal spells that don't exile can be okay in spots, but they do slow the game down where Collected Company and Rally can take over. The 3 copies of Duress are okay, but there's only so many spells in the deck. They do matter a lot, but there's really only 8 spells at the end of it. I think the Transgress the Minds are fine. Transgress the Mind is another exiling removal spell. A lot of the key creatures are 3 mana, so getting them out forever is very nice. You can tag Collected Company as well, but there's a lot of cards that Danny has in his sideboard that look okay, but are not cards that I would bring in.
Yeah, things like maybe Duress. You know, you think, oh, I lose to Rally a lot, but it's a liability, right?
Yeah, and I think that Painful Truths is much the same deal. I'm not sure that Danny can really win the game trying to go long because Bastecki has a lot more power when the game gets to that spot.
Well, we're going to go to the decider between Alex Bastecki and Danny Jessup in just a second. Before that, we're going to tell you about StarCityGames.com Game Night. This is the promotion that started last year. We've been running it all year. Play it at your local store. You get exclusive pins and tokens here. Every month they will change. This month for the holidays, we have our beautiful reindeer here. You get those caribou tokens given away at each event. That is every week at an SCG.com game night. If you want to know the upcoming promos, in January you can play and receive your chance to receive the Grizzly brand token. This is, of course, the 5/5 Demon token in January. And if you want to get your store signed up, you right now can get signed up in time for the February token. And that is everyone's favorite 2-3 Minotaur. It's the Magus of the Moo. So get that and everything else, learning more at starcitygames.com/game night. So game 3 then back between Danny Jessup and Alex Bastecki. I mean, that was a game that looks like Danny was able to take, and it wasn't on the back of Anafenza, one of the cards that we normally see. It was Wingmate Rock instead.
Yeah, Wingmate Rock is a big player in the matchup. I'm not necessarily sure if Bastecki can get out of that turn, even if he does sacrifice the Scion, because I think he might be dead to the +1 on Gideon. I don't know if he had enough blockers back to be able to survive, because at that point I think he only has the Catacomb Sifter back to block, and he's facing down Wingmate Rock plus token plus the Gideon attacking.
So he has to lose his whole board?
I don't think he can survive.
I
think he's got 1 blocker against 2 lethal attackers.
Right, because the Zulapur Cutthroat is gone. So maybe there's no way out of it for Alex.
I don't think there's a way out for Alex.
Okay. Helps that Danny gets to decide the mode of Gideon after Alex makes a play.
Right.
So maybe not another draw for Alex.
It's possible, you know, if you want to go back, maybe you don't send in the token there, so you have 1 additional blocker on the way back in case it comes to that sort of thing. But
then you're playing around a top-decked Silk Wrap, and I mean,
right.
I do like his play going up to that point.
And you know, getting Jessup down to 9 is pretty valuable if you assume that you're going to keep the Zulapur Cutthroat in play, because that increases the likelihood that Rally or even Collected Company could rip off something for lethal the next turn. So there's a way for Bastecki to play around a Silk Wrap off the top, but that's probably a lower EV play than making the attack that he made and hoping that Jessup just misses on his draw and he gets 1 more rip at it.
Well, Alex will get one more chance at this matchup 4-color rally v. Obs on aggro. We saw this last weekend in the top 4 of Caleb Shear versus Casey Portis, going to a full 5 games, all of them very close. This is one of the closer matchups in Standard right now.
It's easy to look at a deck with Anafenza and Wingmate Rock and just say, okay, well, this has got to be good against a deck that's all on the ground and needs its graveyard to function. But especially post-board, the deck gets pretty durable. It gets some spot removal spells to check some of those cards. And a lot of the games we watched, it didn't even involve Rally. It was just Collected Company, Grim Horror Specs, Planeswalkers, just playing a better grindier game with Rally as almost an afterthought.
Yeah, and we do see... I mean, so Danny has those trump cards, those Anafenzas and Wingmate Rocks. But in the games where he doesn't have any of them, then you feel like Alex suddenly becomes a favorite. Because if you're just doing their plan A's, Alex is better at it.
Yes. I mean, he can. He's not quite as good pound for pound as Obs on aggro, of course. Creatures are a little bit worse. But they are very synergistic and collectively can make combat challenging. When you combine that with Collected Company and Rally the Ancestors, if Danny's all on the ground and isn't breaking up any of the synergies, the game can quickly get to a spot where he can't really make attacks.
Alex Bastecki going to be on a mulligan here for Game 3. We mentioned that last weekend. Rally, one of those decks that, thanks to its card advantage engines, cards like Collected Company, Scries, Grim Horror Specs, can really recover from a mulligan without too much work. What he doesn't want to see then on Danny's side is a copy of Anafenza.
Well, especially Anafenza with something on the second turn of the game, because
Sure.
that means that the Fleshbag Marauder plan no longer gets it off the table, and you're just on Murderous Cut's interaction.
Well, Alex is going to keep on 6. Does have a copy of Murderous Cut in his hand if it comes to that. And the longer this game goes, generally, the more you like it for the 4-color Rally deck.
Typically, you know, it gets to a spot where Bastecki is almost always drawing to Collected Company and Rally as big draws. As the game progresses, Danny's big draws, which are Anafenza and Wingmate Rock for the most part, aren't guaranteed to be powerful enough for him to win the game.
Well, it is a turn 1 Warden of the first tree for Danny, so he does have some of that early pressure you were talking about.
Pressure and insulation from an Edict in the event that he has Anafenza, which is 2 very important things here for him.
Alex, turn 1 was Evolving Wilds. Going to start with a Forest. Mana can sometimes be a difficulty for the Rally deck.
Well, you are a 4-color deck, which is base green, blue, black, splashing a double white card. So it can be a little funky getting all the mana online. It's usually fine because you don't need to cast Rally until much later in the game. So you can incidentally get white mana going along your business of getting your green, blue, and black online.
For Alex, his draw was a copy of Fleshbag Marauder. You talked about how that can be so good in this matchup, especially against something like Anafenza.
The clunkier draws of Obs on aggro when they're not playing anything until Anafenza on 3 or Siege Rhino on 4, the Fleshbag Marauders are great. It's also just part of the Rally/Collected Company package. There's only so many times you can get hit by Edicts, even if you do have the low end of your curve, before you run out of stuff to do.
I like Alex's line here. Second play was a Polluted Delta. Now he has interaction. You see in his hand land 3, Cities He's Faithful, Murderous Cut, Catacomb Sifter. So plenty of play. For Danny, it'll be a Swing with Warden for 1, a Shambling Vent, and a pass. Looks like actually he has boarded in Duress, however. Can't cast it just yet. And there is a Murderous Cut in Alex's hand, so right now the Duress is live. I guess the only way it wouldn't be is if Alex were to tap out for Cut here, but that would be a strange play indeed.
Yep. Think we're likely to see Catacomb Sifter this turn?
Yeah, it's a 3/4. Would do a great job of blocking Warden. And you see Alex, thanks to Polluted Delta and some fancy timing on those lands, now has all his colors into play, coming into play untapped. And it is going to be Catacomb Sifter. Alex, in the meantime, has picked up a copy of Zulaport Cutthroat. So despite being on 6 cards, all the pieces appear to be there.
Yeah, there's no big haymaker. That's the thing that Bastecki's hand is missing. He's missing a Collected Company, a Grim Horror Spec, something along those lines, but he's got a lot of cards here to buy himself some time, a couple removal spells, things to clog up the works.
You know, and Danny's draw, to a certain degree, has fallen flat. There's no Anafenza, there's no Wingmate Rock. Danny's going to try to beat Alex with Fair Magic. We see Duress, Murderous Cut, Den Protector. This is a plan that Obs on Aggro can go on a lot, but we talked about the importance of trump cards in this matchup, and Danny doesn't have any of them right now. Duress will be the play from Danny.
And you see it's a hand of stuff as on the leftovers. There's no path towards anything really proactive right now, but it is a hand that can defend itself for a long time.
Duress takes care of the Murderous Cut. Danny could cast another Cut in his hand. Also has Dromoka's Command available. And a Pump on Warden.
But not quite enough mana to do everything in the same turn here.
Right. And this is getting into that dangerous mid-game plan of Obson, where Danny's pumping and using kill spells against Rally, but that's not always always a winning route in this matchup.
The saving grace here for Jessup is the Duress didn't really show a way for Bastecki to hammer him for the time being. Like I said, he can defend himself for quite a while, and that's dangerous in its own way because Bastecki has a lot of big draws in the deck over time. But at least there's nothing threatening in an immediate sense.
So the play here is Danny swings with Warden. Alex double blocks, offers us the trade. Danny taps out and accepts. So Warden is down. Catacomb Sifter is down. The board is just a Scion token. This seems like a great spot for Alex.
I'm sure he's happy with that exchange. It makes the Fleshbag Marauder a lot better. It's Jessup's entire turn. It makes the possibility of Wingmate Rock a lot less threatening because Jessup is far away from being able to raid, and Bastecki has a removal spell left over in his hand in case Jessup has something like Siege Rhino next turn. So, yes, I am sure Bastecki is happy with that trade and all of Jessup's turn being used that way.
Well, the draw for Alex was a Planeswalker. Remember, he has both Liliana and Jace in his deck. So swing with a Scion token. Jace is castable right now, Liliana less so. Looks like he'll go and follow it up with a Zulaport Cutthroat, no fourth land, and a pass. So Jill has Fleshbag Marauder, Sidisi's Faithful, and a Planeswalker. For Danny, the draw is another land. Danny with many ways to kill Alex's creatures, but no way to win just yet. Plays Wooded Foothills. The only creature he has in play right now is that Shambling Vent you see. That one, I'm sure not how Danny wants to spend his turns.
Well, he also doesn't want to play, Den Predator down this turn because he knows he's going to get hit by a Fleshbag Marauder. And given the pace of this game, it's important for him to get his 2-for-1, at least get the Warden back, or maybe a Duress if he fears a spell off the top.
Danny trying to find ways to control the game while still having his own win condition. We'll see where he wants to go with it. Fifth card in the graveyard. It's going to be an activation of Shambling Vent.
Not a great turn. But I don't think Jessup was willing to commit a face-down Den Protector with only 4 mana, and I don't think his hand could really do anything else.
So he'll take the 2 points of life gain. That'll put himself up to 18. And for Alex, this is what you want to see if you're an Alex Bastecki fan. His draw was a copy of Rally the Ancestors.
Though no double white, no real graveyard to speak of, but again, it's a route.
He needed one of those payoff cards at some point. Now, on this board, he probably would have preferred a Collected Company, but this will do. A swing for 2 evens the life totals up at 16. And Sidisi's Faithful played just as a 0-4 from Alex. Looks like that last Planeswalker in hand is a Liliana Heretical Healer. Alex does not have the double black needed to cast her just yet. We go back Danny Jessup's way. Turn 5 means Den Protector can be cast now. Danny also picking up a Siege Rhino for the turn. He knows about Fleshbag Marauder, so may not want to Rhino just yet. Den Protector actually very good in this matchup because of its ability to attack.
Yes, it is something. Besides Waymate Rock, it's the threat with the best evasion in the matchup. There isn't a whole lot that Bastecki can do to block besides Nantuko Husk, and that comes with a lot of risk.
Well, here will be Siege Rhino from Danny. He'll go up to 18. Bastecki will take 3, go down to 13.
I know this looks a little weird in the face of the Fleshbag Marauder that's coming, but I think the logic here from Danny is there's nothing really juicy in his graveyard to go get right now, and the game is being played at a slow enough pace that he's happy with the Siege Rhino dying, and then protecting back the Siege Rhino the following turn. So even though it looks weird because of the Fleshbag Marauder, I think this is just because of the absence of other juicy targets in Jessup's graveyard and the fact that he'll have time to Den Protector this and cast it a second time.
So an interesting drive for Alex. He hits the Flooded Strand. So that means he could get a black mana source or a white mana source. He could get Liliana or Rally, but not both.
Yeah, there is a second copy of Sunken Hollow in his list, so he does have another blue-black duel to go get if that's what he's interested in.
So big decision here for Alex.
My preference, I think, is to cast the Liliana this turn because you get such an advantage out of that card in the short term, and Rally you're probably not looking at to cast for a very long time.
Now, if he casts Liliana, though, that means he cannot Fleshbag Marauder this turn. It looks like he's just going to go with Fleshbag Marauder, go with the safe route.
Yeah, suppose next turn he can go and do something with a Liliana if he's feeling so inclined.
And Danny, trick up his sleeve, he's going to delve away his 4 fetch lands to murderously cut Zulaport Cutthroat before this Fleshbag Marauder hits. So Cutthroat is down. Danny goes down to 17. Now here's the Marauder. I'm interested to see whether Alex wants it in play or in the graveyard. He does have a Liliana in hand.
But he also has a 3-power creature against someone who's with a Shambling Event that's been attacking.
That does seem pretty good.
Fleshbag Marauder is also a way to block Den Protector, should that be Jessup's follow-up. And an 0-4 is a 0-4. It does.
Sure.
And it's not like Sidisi's Faithful is bad in the graveyard with Liliana either. In fact,
no, that's
often much more powerful than the Fleshbag Marauder.
So that'll be this pick. Sidisi's Faithful is sacrificed. Siege Rhino is sacrificed. Scion gets into the red zone. Danny back down to 16. But the graveyard is starting to get stocked. We see Catacomb Sifter, Zulaport Cutthroat, Sidisi's Faithful. There is a Rally in Alex's hand.
Yeah, you're starting to see, we're starting to get to some danger zone here for Jessup. And this is why when Bastecki's hand was slow, it wasn't the end of the world, but it did imply that it could get bad very soon if Jessup didn't speed up the clock and Bastecki found one of his big spells.
Well, big decision here for Danny. He's going to go 6th land Den Protector. He could spend his turn Den Protecting back that Duress. It would hit the Rally, but it seems like he'll want to save that for a Siege Rhino.
Yeah, I think that's the Siege Rhino is so good right now. If you think that Bastecki is running out of things to do, the Duress is there's a couple turn window here for him to have drawn one of his 10s or 12 spells. I mean,
sure.
Going for the Duress. I know it's easy for us to say we're looking at Bastecki's hand the whole time, but if you're in Jessup's seat, I think it's hard to turn down the safe play of just getting back a Siege Rhino.
So on Alex's side, his draw was a copy of Catacomb Sifter. Now he's going to have to be careful. Remember that Den Protector can be difficult to block. He does have a Fleshbag Marauder currently up to the task. But we'll see where Bastecki wants to go here. He can fetch for that black source and get Liliana, but that means he'll have to draw another white. He could cast Catacomb Sifter and then leave his fetch land uncracked, and then maybe not have to make that decision just yet.
Yeah, Catacomb Sifter is the safer play of the two because it doesn't require a commitment with the Flooded Strand.
But one thing he is going to do is looks like he's going to go ahead and attack with Fleshbag Marauder. If that one trades with Den Protector, I don't imagine Alex would be too sad about it. And that's why it won't. Life total's evened at 13. And now see the follow-up. He actually opts to play neither of the two cards. That's unexpected, I would think. He's planning to rally for 3 right now?
I guess.
Danny will use the end step to go ahead and get back Siege Rhino. So that was surprising. I mean, okay, if you rally for 3, you get Catacomb Sifter, Zulaport Cutthroat, and Sidisi's Faithful right now. I guess it's not bad. It's a rally for value.
Yes. And with Jessup's draw being very slow, he can kind of afford to use the first one to blunt a little bit of the offense, and then use the second one or a Collected Company to really push himself ahead.
Well, we'll see. This could be a big turn then for Alex. See where Danny wants to go. He has a 3/2 Den Protector in play. Players are even at 13 apiece. And if you're Danny, I almost want to say you're sniffing out a Rally of the Ancestors here. It seems way too coincidental that Alex on 3 cards and this many mana sources would have nothing to do.
Well, what makes it confusing is that it could also just be Collected Company.
That's the straightforward play.
And actually, if I was in Danny's position, I would think that a Collected Company is much more likely.
So either way, what you're thinking if you're Danny is that if you're attacking, there's going to be some surprise blockers.
Right.
Danny will fetch down to 12. We're going to see a Siege Rhino. Danny to 15, Alex to 10. And if that's the case, we may or may not see an attack. No, and it'll be an attack from Den Protector. So I was surprised to see the pre-combat Siege Rhino here.
I think that the goal of the pre-combat Siege Rhino is to get Bastecki, in the event that Collected Company is the play, is to get Bastecki to cast it up front, because he may want to, depending on what he hits, he may want to edict away the Den Protector rather than the Siege Rhino. And it's just likely to force some action from Bastecki. You get more information on whether or not you want to attack with your Den Protector. Because let's imagine that Bastecki goes, okay, in response, I'll collect a company and I get Grim Horror Specs and Nantuku Husk. Then Den Protector doesn't even want to attack that turn. So I think it's just an effort to clarify the game state a little bit. Also, I think Jessup may have Dramoka's Command in his hand, and so he just wants another big thing to brawl with.
That makes sense.
Should that come up as well.
And Alex is going to take the 3. So that means he's going to spend the turn not rallying, really not making any of the plays. We'll see Alex go to 7 on end step. Looks like he'll fetch out Prairie Stream, so he's going to go for the second white and not the second black. Rally's online, Liliana is not. He makes that call. And this is a big change of decision for Alex. He opted last turn not to play any of his 3-drops, and now doesn't rally either, so he burns all his mana for the 2 turns.
Well, there's nothing great for him to unsummon, because he would have to unsummon the Den Protector. I wonder if he was just hoping that Jessup would fire up the Shambling Fen. That would give him something to do with the Sidisi's Faithful. He could maybe make some blocks or at least gain some value with the rest of the stuff that's coming out of his graveyard. But with Siege Rhino pre-combat and then just attack with Den Protector, the graveyard really doesn't provide him a route to answer anything on the board unless he's willing to unsummon a Den Protector in a game that's going on for a long time.
Well, he fetched on end step for Prairie Stream and then drew a 3rd white source in Canopy Vista for the turn. So triple white now for Bastecki, but only single black, and doesn't opt to play anything here. He could have gone for a Catacomb Sifter, but instead is still just going to pass with all his mana up.
And at this stage of things, you probably don't want to attack with the Den Protector and the Fleshbag Marauder, because you don't want a rally getting back a Fleshbag Marauder when you're threat light. But based on what's happening on the board, Jessup can just send in with Siege Rhino. There's no block on the table that's particularly good.
Well, if Alex gets his Fleshbag Marauder in the graveyard, we do start setting up lines where he can rally back Fleshbag, Sidisi's Faithful, and I would think edict away Danny's whole board 1 creature at a time.
Yeah, but I don't think not attacking is acceptable. I think Danny can't say go if you're worried about rally. It's only going to get worse.
So here's the attack. It's both Den Protector and Siege Rhino from Danny. That's 7 damage. It will force a block. And we are going to see a rally for 3 from Alex. This is before blockers. So he won't get back the Fleshbag Marauder, but he will get Catacomb Sifter, Sidisi's Faithful, and Zulaport Cutthroat. The Sifter will make a 1/1 Scion. And now we have an exploit from the Faithful.
But this is not a terrible position here for Jessup. He's got multiple removal spells in hand if Bastecki makes any sort of move to block here. And there's no great blocks on the table for the Siege Rhino unless he's willing to commit a lot of stuff, in which point the Dromoka's commands and Murderous Cuts really start coming into play.
So here's a Sifter trigger. Looks like the Scion token was exploited. Or rather, this is before the Scion is made. So we're holding all triggers on the stack. It's going to be Dromoka's command from Danny Jessup. We'll see what modes he wants to make.
It would not surprise me if he wants to fight down the Fleshbag Marauder here before blocks are declared.
Well, he'll put a counter on Den Protector so that it can't be blocked.
This is an even better route. I was thinking maybe he wants to get the Fleshbag Marauder off the table here, so there's no block on the Den Protector. Putting a counter on the Den Protector accomplishes the same thing, and he gets to fight down the Zulaport Cutthroat before he gets to make any move on the blocks.
So Den Protector is going to look to get larger. Siege Rhino is going to fight down Zulaport Cutthroat. Those are the modes chosen on Dromoka's command. Now, as we know, Danny still has double kill spell left in his hand.
And this might be a spot where Bastecki can't block effectively through the removal spells, and now with no Zulaport Cutthroat triggers, it might get to a point here where he has to consider using Sidisi's Faithful on either the Den Protector or the Siege Rhino, which is also not an enviable position.
So Zulaport Cutthroat dies, drains for 1. Here we get a Scry. Alex going to decide on that. Now remember, after this is done resolving, then we'll start looking at that Sidisi's Faithful and Catacomb Sifter enter the battlefield triggers. Those have still been held on the stack. And a tough decision here for Alex. But there are more kill spells coming from Danny.
Yeah, this is... I'm not a big fan of the removal spells in general in this matchup, just because when the game slows down, I think Rally's got a pretty big edge. But if you are attacking them, sometimes it takes them a little while to get something going. And you can just punch through the damage before Rally and Collected Company bury you.
So here we go. Sifter will make a 1/1. Now here's the exploit trigger on Sidisi's Faithful. And we're going to hold that trigger on the stack. Danny's going to make another play. He's going to ultimate price down the Sidisi's Faithful. Danny is trying to eliminate all the toughness on Alex's side of the board. Which, as it stands, there's a lot of damage coming in. So Sidisi's Faithful is going to target Catacomb Sifter with its ability. Now, he won't get to unsummon anything because the Faithful is now gone.
And I think Jessup's play here might be if Bastecki underblocks, maybe he can get exactly 8 points across by killing whatever blocks the Siege Rhino. And if Bastecki blocks with enough stuff to play around one removal spell, well, your Siege Rhino is likely to stay alive, and in any case, you're keeping your Den Protector, and you're really putting Bastecki on removal spell or rally or something along those lines, or he's dead next turn. Because there's no way he's stopping the 4 points from the Den Protector.
If there's a kill spell in Danny's last card, there's no way for Alex to kill the Siege Rhino here, even if he puts everything in front of it.
Right.
So in that sense, I don't know if there's a reason for Alex to put the Scions in front.
The Scions in front, maybe it doesn't matter because he's on Rally or Bust regardless, and putting the Scions in front might mean that he can survive a Siege Rhino trigger the next turn if he's able to find something for the Den Protector. Because the Den Protector is going to bring him down to 4 for sure. Yep. If he takes any more damage, suddenly Siege Rhino is in the equation. And if the Siege Rhino dies, then Den Protector is in the equation as well. So
sure,
you might as well save as much points as you can.
So Danny going to order the creatures here. There are 7 points of power on Siege Rhino right now. 6 points of toughness. If Danny has a removal spell for Fleshbag Marauder, however, the Siege Rhino will not die in combat here. And it looks like that's exactly what's going to happen. 3 tapped, 2 delved. This is another murderous cut for Danny Jessup. And he will cut the Fleshbag Marauder. It's a scry for Alex. But a bit of a disaster. Alex is not going to get the Siege Rhino, and he's going to lose both Scions.
Going to get a lot of scries, though.
Imagine he's just looking for Rally again. He will get 2 more scries off those Scions. I mean, he can certainly yeah, he'll get 2 more scries. They'll all hit the graveyard at the same time. Can he find that Rally? His hand is a Catacomb Sifter and a Liliana.
And the trade's still going to happen here because Danny used that Dromoka's command to fight down the Zulaport Cutthroat.
Oh, wow, you're right. So there's 1 more point of damage on Siege Rhino.
So now at this point, Bastecki is drawing to just a removal spell to stabilize this game. It doesn't have to be just Rally.
Oh, wow, there was the Dromoka's command earlier.
And Bastecki sniffed that out, too. I mean, he pointed.
Absolutely.
He did
no,
not
you
blink.
were right.
He did not blink. He pointed down at it.
Draw. It's Evolving Wilds from Alex.
But he's still got to find an answer this turn or gain some life or something. He's dead on the table.
Yeah, and he has an uncastable Liliana, a Catacomb Sifter, and now a Evolving Wilds in play. I don't know that he can survive this hit off Den Protector. Here's Catacomb Sifter. It'll make a Scion. He will pass. And may just be dead to Den Protector. Danny draws Duress. And he'll get to see what's going on Alex's side. This could be the match here. Duress played. Oh, nothing to Duress, but now Danny will know. It's Liliana and Evolving Wilds. Here's Den Protector and game and match to Danny Jessup. 2-1. He takes both sideboard games from 4-color Rally, and he's moving on to the quarterfinals.
Yeah, that's a real close one. And you can see, you know, these matches now they're slowing down. It's an hour-and-a-half affair, very intense. Bastecki with a lot of looks at it there at the end. A collected company, a Rally, certainly, even just a removal spell. But all the scribes can piece together one of his big hits, and it's very hard for his deck to answer a 4-power Den Protector, as you saw. Just not a lot of stuff can block it. He's really looking at just removal spells.